Let me begin say a few words, a few highlights of recent success story of Greece. Maybe I can pick three kind of things. First, income has been rising very fast in Greece, and we know that per capita GDP has increased by around 26% over the last 5 years since the pandemic, and now reached around 92% of the pre-crisis level. During this period, public sector balance sheet has improved quite notably, and as Michael mentioned, the public debt has declined by around 65 percentage point of GDP over the last 5 years, which is one of the fastest pace of debt reduction in modern history, not just European standard, but in modern history across the world. Third, during this period, banks' balance sheet also has strengthened quite significantly, with this NPL ratio now around at 2.5%, record low level, relative to around 45% about a decade ago. So this very strong achievement over the last 5 years reflect the strong implementation of reforms during this period. Let me pick a few reforms that from our perspective has been quite successful. First, fiscal reforms to combat tax evasion has significantly expanded or broadened the tax base and reduced the large size of informality of this economy. And leveraging this fiscal space created by this very successful fiscal reform, this allowed the government to reduce social security contribution and personal income tax of the household, which then improved their household income and support private consumption over the last 3 to 4 years. And I do not want to repeat great success or great progress in energy transition, as we discussed a lot extensively yesterday. But beyond that, I'd also like to recognize two important reforms that are ongoing from our perspective. First is the national cadastre reform, which is almost complete as of today, and I expect that the full operationalization of the cadastre will come to town early next year. And ongoing judicial reform has already reduced significant amount of time that is needed to close the case, civil case, and now the total amount of time is close to the EU average. Why I think these two are very important? Because from the global experience, these are the areas or reforms that not only ensure the financial stability, but also to promote the growth. But today, I would like to also highlight that the glass is still half full when it comes to the reform. What I mean by half full in the following sense. Despite very rapid increase in household income, still real per capita GDP in Greece is more than 15% below its pre-crisis trend, and it still remains second lowest in the Union. At the same time, even though we have seen quite notable improvement in public sector and banking sector the balance sheet, the private sector balance sheet repair still remain incomplete, especially for household. We know that the household saving rate in Greece is the lowest in the European Union. Beyond that, when we look at our external imbalance or external balance of this economy, we all know that current account deficit, which has decreased steadily over the last 4 or 5 years, still remain very large at more than 5% of GDP. This reflects that supply side, the capacity of this economy, still lagging behind the strong recovery of domestic demand. So more broadly speaking, overall investment in this economy is still low compared to other countries in the EU, as we just heard in the previous session. Productivity growth, even though it has been picking up, still remains sluggish, and the external imbalance still in town. So that's why, from our perspective, more ambitious reform, more ambitious implementation of structural reform is critical to sustain high growth in the medium term and address those large remaining external imbalance.